Indexed arrays. In PHP, indexed arrays are arrays with numeric indexes where indices are automatically assigned and start from 0. These are the most basic types of arrays where each element can be accessed using its numeric index. The code creates an indexed array called $fruits, containing 3 elements, apple, banana, and cherry. These elements are automatically assigned indices 0, 1, and 2, respectively. The echo statements then retrieve and display the values of each element in the array by using their indices. Associative arrays. Associative arrays are a key construct in PHP that allow you to store data as key-value pairs where each key is unique. Unlike indexed arrays where values are accessed by numerical indices, associative arrays use meaningful string keys, making your code more readable and manageable. In this code snippet, we create an associative array named $age, with keys representing names and values representing ages. Keys are strings Peter, Ben, and Joe, and their corresponding values are 35, 37, 43. To access the age of Ben, we use the syntax age Ben, which outputs Ben is 37 years old. Multidimensional arrays. In PHP, a multidimensional array is an array that contains one or more arrays. Each value in the array can be another array, and this way, it is possible to create a multi-level or nested array structure. The provided code snippet creates a 2-dimensional array, often thought of as a matrix. It consists of 3 arrays, each with 3 integers. The syntax echo matrix 1, 2 is used to access the value 6. Here, 1 references the second inner array, while 2 accesses the third element of that array. Array iteration. Array iteration in PHP is the process of looping through an array and accessing each of its elements consequently. The most common way to iterate through an array in PHP is using the for-each loop, although you can also use for, while, and do-while loops in conjunction with functions like each, current, next, reset, and end. Below is an example using for-each, which is straightforward and commonly used for PHP arrays of any dimension. In the provided PHP code, we declare an indexed array $, containing the integers 1 through 5. We then use a for-each loop to iterate over the array. During each iteration of the loop, the current element's value is assigned to the value variable, which is then printed followed by a space. The loop continues until it has accessed each element in the array. This is a simple and efficient method for iterating over arrays in PHP. Array functions, sort, count, array merge, etc. PHP provides several functions to sort arrays. The sort function sorts an array by values in ascending order. In the given code, the sort function is used to sort the numeric array $array into ascending order. The print r function is then used to print the sorted array, which would output array 0, 2, 1, 4, 2, 6 through 8. The keys have been reindexed after sorting. Superglobals get, post, request, a session, etc. Superglobals in PHP are predefined global variables that are always accessible, regardless of scope. They can provide information about the request, session, server environment, and more. This code demonstrates using various superglobals. $get retrieves data sent via URL parameters. $post is used for data sent through an HTML form with the post method. $request can contain data from both get and post methods. $session allows you to store and persist user data across different pages. Session start is necessary to initiate or resume a session. Lastly, a server contains server and execution environment information. HTML forms and input types. HTML forms are a way to collect user data. The form element wraps input elements like text fields, radio buttons, checkboxes, and buttons. The action attribute determines where to send form data upon submission, and the method attribute specifies how, usually post or get. The code represents a simple HTML form. It contains a text input field labeled name, where users can enter their name. The form uses post method to send data to submit.php when submitted. The label tag is associated with the input via the for attribute, which improves accessibility. Once the form is submitted, the server-side file submit.php can access the user's name through the name field in the $post superglobal array in PHP. Retrieving form data in PHP. In PHP, form data sent through HTTP POST or GET requests can be accessed using global arrays, POST and GET respectively. Here's a simple example of a script that retrieves data from a form submitted via POST method. This code checks if the request method is POST, then accesses the name and email values from the POST array, ensuring that they're set with the ESET function. If they're not set, empty strings are assigned as defaults. The HTML special chars function is used to prevent XSS attacks by escaping HTML entities. Finally, it echoes out the sanitized form values. Validating form data. Validating form data is a crucial aspect of web development. It ensures that the data entered by the user meets the appropriate criteria before being processed or stored. This step is not only essential for data integrity, but also for security, as it serves as a first line of defense against malicious input. The code snippet provided begins by checking if the form has been submitted using the POST method. An array named errors is then initialized to store potential error messages. Validation checks are performed. Empty POST name checks if the name field is empty, and filter var filter validate email verifies if the email entered is a valid format. If errors are found, they are added to the errors array with corresponding messages. If errors is empty, it implies that all inputs have passed validation and the form can be safely processed. Sanitizing input for security. Sanitizing input is crucial for protecting a web application against malicious data that can lead to security vulnerabilities like SQL injection and cross-site scripting, XSS. In PHP, data sanitization can be handled in various ways, including native functions that filter and clean the input. In the provided code snippet, filter var is utilized to sanitize a string from user input, data field from a form submission. The filter sanitize string filter is specifically designed to remove tags and encode special characters from the input, reducing the risk of XSS attacks. Once sanitized, the data is safe to be echoed out or further processed. Note that for different types of data, such as URLs or email addresses, PHP offers various other filters like filter sanitize email and filter sanitize URL. File upload and handling. In PHP, file upload is managed through an HTML form with the entype attribute set to multi-part form data. The $files superglobal array is used to access the uploaded files. PHP provides various attributes like name, type, size, temp name, and error to manage file uploads. The provided code checks if a file has been posted using the file to upload name attribute. It then specifies a directory where files will be stored and constructs a target path by appending the file name. The move uploaded file function attempts to move the file from a temporary directory to the target location. If successful, it will inform the user of the successful upload, otherwise it will signal an error. The HTML form is set to POST method with the correct encoding type to handle file data. Handling checkboxes, radio buttons, and select options. Checkboxes allow users to select one or more options from a set. When submitting a form, checked boxes are sent to the server and unchecked boxes are not. To handle checkboxes in PHP, you generally check if the checkbox name attribute is a key in the POST array, which indicates that it was checked. In the provided PHP code, we use the ESET function to check if checkbox name exists in the POST array. If it exists, the checkbox was checked, and we can access its value with POST checkbox name. If not, the checkbox was unchecked. Keep in mind that for multiple checkboxes with the same name, the name should be an array, e.g., name equals checkbox name, and POST checkbox name will be an array of values. Reading and writing files. Reading files in PHP is a fundamental skill. It's typically done using various built-in functions. Fopen opens a file, fgets reads a line, and fclose closes the file. The code opens example.txt in read mode. Then it checks if the file was successfully opened. If so, it enters a loop that keeps reading lines from the file using fgets and echoes them. The loop continues until fgets returns false, end of file. After reading, fclose is used to close the file. File handling functions. In PHP, file handling functions allow you to read, write, and manipulate files on the server. These functions give you the capability to create dynamic content, store data, and manage files, which are crucial for many web applications. The code snippet demonstrates the basic file handling functions in PHP. First, the fopen function is used to open a file called example.txt in read mode R. The file handle returned by fopen is stored in the variable file handle. Next, freed is used to read the content of the file into the variable content. The size of the file is determined using the file size function. Finally, the file is closed using fclose to free up any system resources associated with the file, and the content of the file is printed out with echo. Working with directories. In PHP, you can create a new directory using the mdir function. This function requires the name of the directory you want to create and may also accept additional parameters such as mode and the recursive flag. The code above uses the mdir function to create a directory named new directory in the current working directory. If the directory is successfully created, mdir returns true. Otherwise, it returns false. File upload and download. To upload files in PHP, you'll typically use an HTML form with an end-type attribute set to multi-parts form data. The file input should have a name attribute, which is used in the PHP script to access the uploaded file. PHP provides the superglobal files to access file upload information. The PHP code checks if a file is uploaded via files file to upload. It sets a target directory and destination for the file. If the file is moved successfully to the target using move uploaded file, a success message is printed, otherwise, an error message. The HTML form allows users to pick a file and submit it for uploading. Handling file permissions. In PHP, handling file permissions is an essential aspect of security and file management. The chmod function is used to change the permissions of a file or directory. The code above attempts to set the permissions of example.txt to 0745 using the chmod function. The permission mode 0745 signifies that the file owner has read, write, and execute permissions, while the group and others have read and execute permissions only. If chmod fails, it outputs an error message. Parsing different file formats CSV, JSON, XML. Comma-separated values CSV files are simple text files with data organized by rows, where each field in a row is separated by a comma. PHP provides functions to easily read from and write to CSV files. The code opens a CSV file called data.csv for reading. It uses fgetCSV inside a while loop to read each line, converting it to an array where each element represents a field in the row. The array is then printed out. After reading the file is closed with fclose. Introduction to databases. A database is a structured collection of data that allows for the retrieval, insertion, update, and deletion of data. Common databases used with PHP are MySQL, PostgreSQL, and SQLite. SQL, structured query language, is used to perform operations on the data stored in databases. The provided PHP code demonstrates how to connect to a MySQL database using the MySQLi extension. A connection is established by creating an instance of the MySQLi class, passing the server name, username, password, and database name as parameters. The connection is checked for any errors, and if there are none, a success message is displayed. Finally, the connection is closed using the close method. MySQL versus other databases. MySQL and PostgreSQL are both open-source relational database management systems. They are used to store and organize data in a way that enables efficient access and management. Despite both being RDBMS, they have differences in performance, features, and syntax, which cater to different use cases. While MySQL is known for its speed and ease of use, making it a popular choice for web applications, PostgreSQL is recognized for its standards compliance and advanced features like full support for different types of indexing, full text search, and saved procedures. MySQL tends to be more popular in the web hosting industry, while PostgreSQL often finds its place in more complex applications where extensibility and compliance are more critical. The choice between MySQL and PostgreSQL can be influenced by the specific needs of the project, including scalability, data integrity, and the complexity of the queries involved. Setting up a database using PHPMyAdmin. PHPMyAdmin is a web-based tool that manages MySQL databases. It provides a user-friendly interface for performing database operations without needing to use SQL command line. Here is how you can set up a new database using PHPMyAdmin. In PHPMyAdmin, you would typically access the web interface through your browser. Once logged in, you could click on Databases at the top of the PHPMyAdmin dashboard to access the database creation page. There, you would find a text field to provide the name of the new database. For this example, you would type sampledb into the database name field and then click the Create button. The SQL command shown is what PHPMyAdmin runs behind the scenes to create the new database sampledb. Basic SQL queries: select, insert, update, delete. The select query is used to fetch data from a database table. It is one of the most commonly used SQL commands. We can specify which columns of data to retrieve as well as set conditions for which rows to fetch. This code retrieves data from column 1 and column 2 of table name where the condition is met. If all columns are needed, replace column 1, column 2 with an asterisk store. The where clause is optional and is used to filter records. If omitted, all records are retrieved. PHP functions for MySQL. Before you can interact with a MySQL database through PHP, you need to establish a connection using the MySQL connect function. The code above attempts to connect to a MySQL database. It defines variables for the server name, username, password, and database name. The MySQL connect function then attempts the connection, and if unsuccessful, the script dies and outputs an error message. If successful, a connected successfully message is displayed. Lastly, MySQL close is called to close the connection. Using PDO for database access. PDO, which stands for PHP Data Objects, is a database access layer providing a uniform method of access to multiple databases. It doesn't provide a database abstraction, but it allows for a uniform interface. The code sets up a PDO connection using the database credentials. It specifies the database source name, DSN, which includes the host, database name, and charset. It also sets PDO options to throw exceptions on errors, default fetch mode to associative arrays, and disables emulation of prepared statements. The PDO instance is created in a try-catch block to handle any potential exceptions. Handling SQL errors. When working with databases in PHP, it's important to handle any SQL errors that may occur during the execution of your queries. This allows your application to gracefully deal with issues such as syntax errors, connection problems, or other unexpected behaviors. In this code snippet, we attempt to connect to a MySQL database using MySQL. If the connection fails, connect error will contain the error message, and we terminate the script using die. When we run a query that selects data from a non-existent table, query will return false in case of an error. In such a scenario, $error will contain the SQL error message, which we then echo out. Afterwards, we close the connection with close. This is essential to free up resources. Preparing statements and preventing SQL injection. SQL injection is a common security vulnerability that can occur when unsanitized user input is interpolated directly into SQL queries. To prevent SQL injections, it is recommended to use prepared statements with parameterized queries in PHP. This means instead of inserting user input into the SQL string directly, you use placeholders and bind values to them, which ensures that these values are treated as data and not as part of the SQL code. The code establishes a connection to the database using MySQL and prepares a SQL statement with a placeholder for the email. It then binds the $email variable as the parameter with bind param, where s indicates the type, string. After setting the email variable, the does_stmt execute is called to run the query with the bound parameters. The results are retrieved using $stmt getResult and processed in a while loop. Lastly, eth_close and $mysclose are called to close the statement and database connection respectively.